My sister wanted my fiancé for herself, so my family boycotted my wedding. I let them stay home and I don't regret it. I come from a relatively small family, just my mom, my dad, my sister, and me. I'm Hannah, 28, and my sister is Olivia, 24. I'll admit upfront that I'm probably a little biased given that I'm the one living through this, but I have never once been the favorite child, not for as long as I can remember. Everyone in my family bends over backwards for whatever Olivia wants. She's given whatever she desires, almost without question, and that's been true since we were kids. Meanwhile, I was always expected to handle things on my own and be the mature, self-sufficient one. I understand on some level that's a reasonable thing to ask of an adult, but it's a strange and frankly unfair standard to hold a child to, and at the time I genuinely had no idea what I was supposed to do with that expectation or how I was meant to fend for myself at that age. Looking back, I think it shaped me into a far more capable person than I might otherwise have become. At least now I don't depend on my parents for anything, unlike my sister, who has never had to fend for herself in any meaningful sense. I moved out at 20 because I was honestly exhausted by the favoritism and couldn't keep watching it play out in real time under the same roof. I found a small flat. It was all I could afford while juggling school and a job at the same time, and I was incredibly proud of myself for making it work without any help from home. From there I just kept building, one step at a time. I graduated with honors, went on to complete my master's last year, and I'm doing genuinely well for myself by any reasonable measure you care to use. Despite all of that, I still feel essentially invisible to my own family, like none of it ever registered with them. I've made my peace with it, mostly, though some days that's easier than others. I'm getting married to my long-term boyfriend, the love of my life. We've been together since my second year of university, which puts us at roughly 5 years as a couple, though we knew each other long before we ever started dating. I won't pretend my family dynamic hasn't left a mark on me. There was a period where I genuinely believed I was incapable of meaningful relationships, like I had nothing real to offer anyone. Meeting Daniel and building something solid and real with him is what made me realize the problem was never me. I decided somewhere along the way that I would stop punishing myself for not having a close relationship with my parents and my sister. We talk occasionally, but it's all surface level, pleasantries, nothing that resembles closeness. I think most people would find that strange for a firstborn child, and honestly, so do I. Daniel and I have been together for years, as I mentioned, and he proposed to me the day we went out to celebrate finishing my master's degree. We had talked about marriage plenty of times and both knew where things were heading, but the timing still caught me completely off guard. He did it in the most romantic way imaginable, surrounded by our closest friends. I had genuinely believed we were just getting together for a casual hangout. One of my friends suggested we go around and say what everyone meant to each other, and she clearly orchestrated the whole thing, because I found out afterward it had all been planned. When it got to Daniel's turn, he spoke about everyone else first and saved me for last. He said the sweetest things I'd ever heard, and I was nearly in tears by the time he got down on one knee. That moment still feels just as magical every time I think back on it. I love him completely. I didn't feel any urgency to tell my family until we were actually ready to start planning. They hadn't even known I was dating anyone, and I genuinely don't think they cared either way. Daniel eventually convinced me it was time, so I went home one weekend to introduce him properly. He looked incredible that day and I teased him about clearly trying to make a good impression. He didn't deny it. My sister wasn't home when we arrived but turned up a few minutes later, and within moments of learning that Daniel was my fiancé,